Hey, it's Dan from The Plague, and I'm here with another album review. Today I'm going to be talking about the brand new record by Sweden's The Crown. It's called Royal Destroyer, and it's out on Metal Blade Records. In the late 90s, along came this album. I remember getting this promo for Death Race King, just kind of out of the blue, and I had never heard of the band, didn't know anything about them, and I was just blown away by it. It just had this like intensity of like the best death metal records, but it also had like a certain thrash undertone to the riffing, and it was surprisingly melodic in places. And there's just a great deal of diversity on the album that a lot of the other death metal bands at the time weren't necessarily doing. Um, and there was also on top of that, like this kind of punky vibe to it that reminded me of some of the, Motorhead and Venom influences. And that kind of elevated it. It kind of put it in its own separate category of this kind of death thrash crossover that was still fairly unique at the time. The band continued to release quality albums after that one, but they never seemed to quite recapture the magic of Death Race King. Even if the sound was very similar, it just never, like the songs themselves just weren't as memorable as the ones on Death Race King. Until 2018 when Cobra Speed Venom came out. And that just, like, again, kind of blew me away. It was like the album art was like a little bit different, and the energy of Death Race King was like just back in full force. And I'm sure some of it had to do with them working with Frederick Nordstrom again. But yeah, it's just the quality of the songs and the sound of the album just like totally transported me back to the late 90s. And I'm happy to say that Royal Destroyer is, if anything, an even better album. It's basically very much in the same style as Cobra Speed Venom, but the songs are just a little bit better. Just a little bit more memorable. And the production is just killer. So the entire band does an amazing job with their performances on this record. Johan Lindström delivers like just some really great gruff death metal vocals, but there's also a clarity to his voice that really makes the lyrics understandable and just gives it that much more power. The newest member of the band is Heinrich Axelsson, and he's the drummer, and man, his performance on this album is just killer. Like it's like controlled chaos throughout. That's just perfect for the getting that energy level that the Crown like just does so well. The album starts off with a song called "Baptized in Fire," and it's almost like an anti-intro. It's just this like straight to the point, brutal, super fast song that just gets you right into the album immediately. From that, it leads into "Let the Hammering Begin" and "Motor Death," which are both they're both more complex, but they're also like almost as intense as the first song. Motor Death in particular has like just some great riffs, and the way that the riffs move from one into the next is just super awesome. Like that's one of those things that I think a lot of bands can't do well. Like even bands that come up with really great riffs, they're not always that adept at making them, arranging them in a way that makes sense and like it really sustains the energy level. And it's something the Crown has always just been like super good at. What else is on here? Glorious Hades. That's like a much slower, more epic track. And then towards the end, you have We Drift On, which is probably the most unique track on the album. It's slower, more melodic direction, and there's not as much complexity to the arrangement itself, but it's actually kind of cool. Like it's one of those songs that really, helps give the album that diversity, and it kind of gives it a little bit of a rest in the middle there. And then you have a song like Ultra Faust, which is just this like super intense, brutal song with blast beats, and then kind of a almost punky, chorus to it. So the level of diversity in this album is just spot on. So the production on Royal Destroyer is just it's phenomenal. It's another recording with Frederick Nordstrom, and I think this is their best sounding record to date, and that's saying something because they've never had a bad sounding record. But yeah, this one it's got the clarity, the power. You can hear all the instruments just perfectly. It's great. It's just exactly what you would want for this type of record. The album artwork is another detail that they really have excelled with in recent years. Cobra Speed Venom was just a very unique and colorful album cover that really stood out among a lot of the other releases I was seeing at the time. It was the work of a Christian Sloan Hall, who also did the work for the Royal Destroyer album cover, which you can see here is also pretty colorful and quite detailed. And if anything, it's a little bit more going on than Cobra Speed Venom. I don't know if I like it as much quite overall, but I still think it's really good, and it really fits the feel of the album like just perfectly. When Cobra Speed Venom came out, it was clearly, to me, the best album the band had done since Death Race King. And hearing Royal Destroyer and sitting with it for a few weeks now, to me, it is clearly an even better album. Like, I still, in my heart, like Death Race King is always going to be my favorite record because it's the first time I heard them. It's just got that, that moment in time that they just captured perfectly. But yeah, this to me is as close as they've come so far, and I'd be really interested to see where they go from here. There's been obviously a lot more death thrash bands that have come along since the Crown got started, but yeah, to me, I don't think anyone does this style with quite the same intensity and just that same feel. So yeah, if you're into any kind of really extreme thrash or more adventurous death metal, definitely check out Royal Destroyer because it is awesome. Definitely going to be one of my best albums this year, for sure. Anyways, that wraps up this album review, and I will hopefully have another one in a couple weeks. So until then, take care.